Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Raising Vibrations. So, today we're going to be talking about the new moon in Gemini, and this is going to be happening for the 6th of June, or on the 6th of June, 2024. So, I hope you guys are well and doing good. The way that I'm going to go about this video, just to kind of give you a little bit of a roadmap, is I want to talk a little bit about what has been taking place for me, what sort of inspiration has really come alive for me at the moment. And then I'll jump into talking about the astrology of this new moon. Okay. So just kind of getting that out the way quickly so you know exactly where we're going with this. So it's good to be back. I've taken a step back from the content creation, taken a step back from the sort of astrological space within myself, and I've needed that in a way to kind of reflect on what's the direction for me going forward with this channel. I've also been reflecting on what is naturally grounded in me at the moment so that I can, in a sense, create from a place of authenticity. So I've been really reflecting on that. I also noticed the other day that I started doing this YouTube channel 10 years ago. And I've been reflecting a lot on that journey and all of the people that I've met along the road and the readings that I've done and the classes that I've taught, and the things that this channel has actually given me as I have also created content for those of you that have been following. So it's been a very interesting time. I currently have Pluto squaring my natal Pluto, my Mercury, my Sun, and my Saturn at the moment. So there's a lot of internal shifting and changing that's taking place for me at the moment. I also have Neptune squaring my Neptune and Moon at the same time. So there's a lot of sort of internal, as I said, changes that are taking place for me. And I've taken this opportunity to step back, take a bit of a break, and come back with a new vigor and new energy and new excitement as well. I've recently come back from the States. I was in Seattle. I was part of a conference called NORWAC, which is the sort of big conference that happens there in the Northwest, which was amazing. I got to do 2 lectures over there, which if you're interested in wanting to check out, they're actually available on NORWAC's website, so you can go check that out there. But yeah, that was amazing. I got to speak to many astrologers and talk astro. I also got to meet some of you that actually follow me here on YouTube. So for those of you that I met, hey, how you going? And I came back from that experience with a lot of enthusiasm. I asked a lot of questions around what was really sort of real and important and what would be beneficial for people to learn about astrology. One thing that I did see was there was a real sort of a surgence of new interest in astrology as well, which is fantastic. And I really hope to see if I can continue to keep attracting people to not only this content over here, but to be able to deepen their astrological practice during times like this, where the sense of meaning and purpose really is at the forefront of trying to make sense of the world and trying to make sense of reality. So yeah, I've got a lot of inspiration from that. I'm busy chatting to Jen about how we can actually put that across. So I'm going to be talking about how and what that is actually. But yeah, I am very excited. I've got a few things in the pipelines, and I will be telling you more about that as soon as I've got some more practical details for you. But yeah, I'm very excited to share what that is. Okay, so now that I've spent some time sort of catching you up and saying hello, and we're back, let's jump straight into this new moon in Gemini conversation. All right, so this is the chart of the new moon. And already, as you can see over here, there's quite a lot of things that are taking place in this Gemini section, which we're going to highlight over here now for ourselves. There's that whole entire cluster of stuff happening in Gemini. And this is a very significant set of planetary alignments, mainly because the fact that Venus is completely aligned with this Sun-Moon contact over here tells you a great deal about the significance of Venus, right? And why Venus needs to be paid attention to. Mercury is also coming up close to the Sun and Venus at the same time. So the Gemini function within the context of this chart is a very significant one. I'll be pointing that out. This over here, this alignment over here, this Mars North Node Chiron Aries energy is also very significant. And this energy, I think, speaks to a large part of what you just went through when I was sharing about reflecting on what direction I want to take and where I want to take this channel and what is inspirational for me and what's really authentic for me at the moment. So this energy was very much contributing to my intro and just sharing what my space was about. So I want to get stuck into that too. This Neptune configuration over here, I think Saturn is a little bit more important in my eyes at the moment, mainly because it's making a complete contact to these Gemini planets. And then this retrograde Pluto returning back to Capricorn. But before it does that, it's making these aspects, or it's making the aspects to Mars over here. So let's start off with this very significant set of planetary alignments, which is the Mars-Pluto square. So if you can remember, and I actually encourage you to go back to those videos that I'd done earlier, where it was Mars conjunct Pluto, Venus conjunct Pluto, and remember the sun was transiting through Aries at the time. I also did a series of a video on Chiron and the North Node conjunction. So if you go back to those videos, a lot of what I was talking about there, this energy right now, this pattern right now, is coming into action. So what was sort of gestating or being born when the planets were in Aquarius, and I talked a lot about the significance of not only this conjunction with Mars and Venus about a couple of months ago, but here we are. Here we are at an activation phase. Okay. So what I mean by activation phase is that the planets have arrived at a point in their cycles where, as I said, what was being planted and seeded in that conjunction are now starting to sort of come to life. Okay. So the first thing to look at here is that the relationship between Pluto and Mars in the chart is what is called an opening square. And this opening square, as you can see there, it's the squares over there, the red lines. This opening square has the energy of wanting to take action, but not knowing how to go about doing it. So most of us, somewhere in our life right now, we want to emotionally commit to a new direction. We want to emotionally commit to a new set of behaviorisms or choices or actions in our lives. And a big part of what is driving that new set of choices that you want to make is actually what began when Pluto and Mars were making that conjunction. So I encourage you to go back to when Mars and Pluto was conjuncting and just kind of think about what was taking place in your life right then and where you are today. That's how you can utilize this transit. Okay. So now you're wanting to take action. You're wanting to take some steps to move forward in that direction. So this Mars-Pluto square is very significant in the sense that it is naturally wanting to force commitment towards choices that you want to be not only free from, so limitations that you feel are binding to you, but also choices that you want to make that are aligned more with what feels natural, authentic, or real. Okay, so that's the sort of parallel realities that I sense that you would be seeing or recognizing within your life, right? And particularly emotionally. When we're dealing with Pluto, we're dealing with deep, raw emotional responses to life. Oftentimes they're deeply overwhelming to us, right? There's a strong energetic and emotional charge associated with Plutonian experiences. And when Mars makes contact with Pluto, it sort of like brings that to the surface faster, right? It allows you to become more sensitive to the importance of what those emotions or feelings are actually about. So again, Mars-Pluto square at the moment is pointing to a desire for, I want to step into something new. I want to emotionally commit to a new set of choices. And I'm not 100% like aware of what that could be exactly, but I I know that that's the direction I want to go, right? How does it unfold? I'm not sure, but this is the direction I want to go. So in order to sort of take the wisdom what I'm sharing over here, reflect on what is essentially what would you like to emotionally commit to and move forward with that feels fresh and new, and also reflect on where you have the sense of stuckness that can often come up as a frustration in your life. And this Mars-Pluto square is really asking you to address that. What is the emotional attachment that is driving that consistent limitation or feeling of stuckness? Okay. So that's the first thing I want to say to that. The second thing with this signature also is that a big part of the collective story with Mars-Pluto square at the moment is a lot of people are learning about where their sense of self starts and ends, and how do we as a collective sort of find collaboration and interaction with each other as we are starting to prioritize and value more individual expression. Whereas, like in the past, it was a lot of the collective psyche was very much kind of drowned into um, a shared identity, a shared hallucination of this is what reality is, and your identity is linked with the way that you fit into that shared hallucination. Whereas Aquarius energy, Mars energy, and of course many other transits taking place, there's been a progressive sort of breaking away from one's identity being linked with a collective energy, and more of a prioritization of who am I, and what do I like and what do I not like, and what is right for me, doesn't need to necessarily be right for another person. So Chiron in Aries speaks a lot to the wound of how, I mean, there are many sort of emotional levels with this Chiron, but one of them is, how do I relate, or how do I um, begin to rediscover myself, and allow myself permission to be self-focused, right? To say, I'm going to prioritize my own needs. I'm going to understand what my own needs are. I'm going to follow my own individual path. I'm going to stand up for what I feel is right for me, and consistently keep sort of holding that space, right? So it creates a sort of individuation from this shared identity. It also speaks to the grieving process around being part of a world where in the past, like previous generations, that wasn't necessarily the paradigm of thinking and feeling. And so we're working through, again, this crossover between the old paradigm that was very much like, this is the rules, you follow them, this is what you do, uh, to now where a lot of people are kind of stepping outside of that centering and that identity and saying, well, I don't believe in the idea of marriage because that was what was told to me at this age, but I am not really somebody that is good in marriage, right? I prefer independence. And so you're kind of like trying to figure out, what was a conditioning pattern that you subscribed to versus what was actually natural and what makes you feel healthy and authentic and free. And again, as I said, this specific conversation on Chiron and Aries and is a lot more deeper and a lot more complicated than what I've brought across, but I've kind of sort of highlighted some really key points that we as the collective are moving through with this Chiron and Aries throughout the world. It's very much the sense of, what is, how does my choices and your choices interact, and does my choice overwhelm your choice or take more of your place? um, where are the boundaries that we overstep? We're very much learning how to sort of begin to, and this is going to be a long process, so this is not something that happens overnight, but we're very much also trying to psychologically figure out exactly, what belongs to who and who belongs to what. And the world is changing quite a lot in terms of the landscape of uh, what is the new set of boundaries and rules and definitions, and yeah. So my brain is going too fast for my mouth at the moment in terms of kind of wanting to talk about some stuff, but that's what that is. Okay. So this activation with this Mars Pluto very much will bring up a lot of feelings surrounding this chironic wound of humanity trying to find its independence while at the same time still being reminded of where there's been a large transgression of power and dominance, and the natural law of when you overpower people and you dominate them, there's a natural psychological reflex that comes out of that. And so that creates an entire new set of dilemmas that we're facing at the moment. Okay, so summary for those of you that are sort of needing that over here, this Mars-Pluto square is an initiation into commitment of new emotional patterns. And you'll feel that and you'll see that and will progressively just get more intense until eventually you feel really committed to it. But it is also the necessary need to address what feels unprocessed within your emotional landscape regarding patterns of loss of power, regarding patterns of where you may have had your own personal boundaries or personal sense of identity impacted by the um, the programming and the way that we as previous generations thought that we needed to live. Like an example of what I mean specifically about this is, in the olden times they used to say children should be seen and not heard. And you can just kind of think about the psychological effects of children growing up in a world and becoming adults where their sense of way that they were parented didn't have that natural mirroring that allowed them to form their own sense of identity. And so a lot of Pluto Libras struggle with the sense of who am I and can I be myself? And my sense of identity is always linked with the meeting the needs of other people, as an example. And a large part of this transit also has to do with the breakdown in society regarding a sense of social trust, right? So this is a huge transit in my eyes. And of course, as I said again, it's very much linked with the original conjunction when Pluto was entering Capricorn at the time. And so this is actually an acceleration energy in my eyes too. Okay, so let's move on to the Saturn squaring the Gemini planetary systems over here. So you've got Saturn sitting at 18 degrees, and then you've got the Sun, Moon, and Venus all at 16 degrees of Gemini. Now, the stories that will come out of this signature here, this Neptune Gemini energy, is, in my eyes, there's the duality, right? The multiplicity, the two sides of every single situation. That's the Gemini piece. And then the Pisces piece speaks to Saturn. What Saturn does is it brings into focus in our consciousness where our limitations and where reality is currently at. Okay. So what Saturn through Pisces is doing is it's revealing to us a great deal of where the ways that we as human beings have defined things, right? So we'll say, this is what is the truth. This is what is taboo. This is what we accept as a society. This is what we understand as the infrastructure of our institutions, right? Anything that's very concrete, that's established, and that we as human beings then interact with, that helps us feel that there is a sense of established society or order in place. Saturn always tells us exactly what's the current state of the society relative to its transit. So right now in Pisces at the moment, you see a tremendous amount of sort of issues around immigration and the flooding process. You see a tremendous amount of issues around the collapsing of certain structures that have become senescent or outdated and can no longer hold certain values or traditions or it can't hold those anymore. But it also shows us as well, the Saturn through Pisces, as I said, where there has been decay, that the old world in which we did inhabit has essentially it's gone, right? So there's a lot of changes taking place with Saturn through Pisces, and Saturn's kind of revealing that, right? Whereas time moved on. So, in 1995, for instance, a lot of people did not use mobile telephones with apps in the way that we use it today. Saturn speaks to the process of the collective and all of us living in a very different world. And it also speaks to where there is a necessary need to see that as things have become outdated and irrelevant, there is also the space where something new will need to be filled there. Okay. What is coming in place of that which has progressively failed, right? Progressively become outdated, that no longer works anymore. So there's a tremendous amount of sort of uncertainty and chaos and unpredictability and disorder with regards to Saturn through Pisces, right? And it creates that kind of collective feeling and theme in the background of our awareness. Like in the peripheral, we can feel that sense of um, uh, sort of decay that is around us. And a big part of that also speaks to the way that energy and energy prices and how governmental structures have used inflation as a way to sort of curb chaos, although that's a whole entire separate subject. So in just kind of coming back into something that's very uh, sort of synced here is that the Saturn through Pisces speaks to the progressive awareness of how things have become outdated and where things have lost their original intention and structure because essentially it's been eroded, right? Things have lost their meaning. And a lot of people will have found a loss of meaning in things. And there's a sense of even collective drifting, like where is that sense of meaning? Where do I belong? What is real for me, etc. So the square that's happening to the planets in Gemini at the moment speak to this multiplicity. In other words, this dual reality where we live in a world that is emerging, but we're also aware of the world that has become senescent. So this kind of polarized sense of structuring is very sort of apparent and present in the collective at the moment. And you can feel that. Sometimes it can be very, very sort of like subtle, but oftentimes, depending on your own life and what you're doing within your own life, you can feel that there is a sort of parallel world in which one world is no longer energized and meaningful and real, and another one feels more alive and potentially wanting to belong to. For those of you that are fortunate enough to have that sense, I suspect that many people actually feel a complete doom, where there's either a absolute need to fill that absent sense of meaning with an idealized state of like an idealization or an ideology or a set of belief systems that reinforces a sense of meaning or disassociates you from the feeling of emptiness. And then there are other people on the other side, again with this multiplicity, that will feel that there is a complete sense of hopelessness, and so why bother? Do you know what I mean? Like, why give any attention to anything if it's all just meaningless anyway, right? And so it kind of leads to this nihilism state. So these systems over here, these planetary kind of alignments, speak very much to a pattern of duality, where again on a spectrum you can go from complete sort of like, oh my God, this is the and well, there's an absence of meaning, and then there's sort of on one side it's absolute idealization. You need to project something into it to find meaning, but it's actually superficial and artificial. And then on the other side, that it's a complete loss of faith and no pointing, right? Now, in terms of the sort of midpoint, if you go back to this aspect that I'm speaking about here, and I talk about this opening square, which is an emotional commitment to something that feels more aligned with what is authentic for you. Well, this pattern over here is sort of the driving force that supports what that commitment is, right? So you'll find meaning in establishing a new routine or a new order or a new way of being. And then there will also be a part of you that's recognizing you're moving away from something that has no value in your life with anymore. And the way that you know that emotionally is one of them feels like it's free and you're getting solutions, and the other one feels like it's frustrating and sort of like, there's no point in continuing over here and it needs to change. So this Gemini energy really speaks to the amplification or making something illuminating, sun moon, right? These are luminaries, illuminating within the collective, within your own self, this sort of binary dual nature of where there is a desire to continue to keep moving, and where there is also a recognition that things have sort of come to a natural ending, and there needs to be innovation, right? So that's very much sort of on point over here, and I want to just address this Sesky quadrate that's happening between Pluto and the Sun and Moon, and of course Venus as well. This aspect over here between here the Sun and Moon is significant because what's happening is that the way that you move through this current energy at the moment is you have to really recognize where that line exists between taking choice and action and feeling resistance and getting feedback from the environment that says that this is aligned or not. That's really where that's at. And you will feel this emotionally within yourself, right? One will feel, as I said, this duality of deadness versus aliveness. So that aspect is really speaking to a continuation or a being aware of that in your life there are these two, realities. This Gemini energy is lighting it up, and you want to be really paying attention, as I said, to where you're getting environmental feedback that's saying this is dead, no longer, resistance, etc., and where there is the potential for growth and where you can invest within. Okay. So that's the kind of signature that's sitting over there at the moment. And I feel that that's really clear in terms of these two very strong energies at the moment. Of course, Jupiter has entered Gemini, and I'm sure you've probably watched many videos on Jupiter entering Gemini. I'm still kind of sort of downloading and reflecting a little bit on that. I will put out a video at some point speaking to Jupiter's entrance into Gemini. But what I can say to you right now is the natural trine to Pluto is a big deal, because when Jupiter trines Pluto, there is an acceleration of not only societal belief systems and perspectives, but it is also a deep acceleration around wanting to commit to a new set of beliefs. So when we look at the world, we form our perception of the world based on what people tell us, what we've been raised with. We get informed by the world based on our experiences. And Jupiter speaks to our awareness, the part of our awareness that is essentially being informed, like what cosmology do we use? So that's why I was talking earlier about that the trine between Pluto and Jupiter is, well, this trine is deeply linked with this Saturn squaring the Sun, Moon, and Venus, and these binary realities where people's belief systems can be easily influenced by the complete absence of meaning, and then people on the other side just completely needing to avoid that sense of absence of meaning by overcompensating and sort of finding meaning in things that are not actually real but more synthetic in that way. So this trine, while it may be very powerful in the sense that it's supporting a commitment to something that feels real for you, which obviously is exactly what I've been trying to point across. You need to see what's real for you in your life right now, and really recognize where your attention and energy is being pulled towards, and explore what that is. That's the healthy way to do this. And then to notice how you're emotionally kind of maybe being interested in things and not. And as I said, right, there's also these set of belief systems within yourself that are being asked to, you want to explore these belief systems, like why do I believe the things that I do? What is the nature of truth for me or reality for me? So it's a very existential kind of activation with Jupiter Pluto. Again, because Pluto is really trying to expose the underlying structural nature of your philosophical truths. And this trine is speaking to, on part, the actualization of it, but it is also at the same time operating in a spectrum or in a place where just be mindful that you may inflate your philosophical view to the point where it almost becomes a lot bigger than what it really is. And I'm not really sure exactly how to navigate that piece over there, but I would just kind of like, just be grounded in and just kind of check in with your truths, ask friends questions around your belief systems to see if you're sort of still in alignment with this, just so that you get like a more healthier reality test of what you consider to be your truth. And an example could be something like this, right? This is an easy thing where somebody might hear some information about something and then in their mind see it as so much more bigger than what it is, and then have this kind of Neptune disillusionment process where it doesn't turn out to be actually as grand as you perceive it to be. It's just because Jupiter squaring Pluto sort of gave it a stronger emotional charge. Okay. So overall, with this signature right now, what I'm saying is that there is a natural transition that we're all going through in terms of choice making, decision making, and where we want to put our energy. And we're also learning a great deal about ourselves. We're also learning about how to heal past wounds where there's been an where there's been a lack of agency, right? Where the collective ideas and shared realities have enforced belief systems that said, human beings need to be not dehumanized, but we tend to dehumanize ourselves because of our unresolved trauma. So this kind of Chiron North Node Mars conjunction over here speaks to the continuation of us needing to address these underlying patterns within ourselves and sort of bring awareness to them. And then from there, look where there are choices that you can make within yourself to grow beyond your comfort zone and to say, this is what I really like, and go for it, right? To actually go for it, to believe in yourself. Pluto trine Jupiter. Okay. All right, everyone. Thanks very much for listening to this forecast. I'm really happy to be back. And as always, if you think that this is valuable, share it with people. And I will be back with another video and talking a little bit more about what is on the leading edge of my inspiration at the moment. And I'm very excited for it. Get some practical details together first, and then I'll talk to you about what is something that I want to be bringing out. All right. Have a great one. Bye, guys.